The starship horizon drifted silently at the edge of the Crimson Nebula. Alarms flickered weakly across the control panels, casting broken red light on the face of Evan Cross, a young human diplomat from Earth. His hands trembled as he gripped the small holographic locket, its blue glow revealing the image of Princess Lyara of Serathia. The ship's hull groaned against the pull of the nebula, a sound like distant thunder rolling through the emptiness of space. Evan spoke quietly into the recorder on his wrist, his voice cracked and tired. "If someone finds this, you need to know what happened. I need you to understand why I said the words," he whispered. His eyes closed for a moment as memories flooded back. The royal hall of Serathia, the glittering stars beyond the glass dome, the alien princess with silver eyes that seemed to see through every lie. It felt impossible now, drifting alone in the dark, to believe that only days ago the galaxy still had hope. The first time he had seen Lyara, she stood tall among her council, her silver robes flowing like liquid light. Her world had been at war with Earth's colonies for generations. She was supposed to be his enemy, yet something in her calm gaze had unsettled him. He had been trained to negotiate, to persuade, to fight with words, but not to feel this. Outside the viewport, the nebula glowed like a living flame, colors twisting and folding as if watching him. The horizon's engines were dead, the distress beacon weak, and the silence between stars seemed to press on his chest. He thought of her smile, the way it had broken the ice of centuries, and he thought of the moment everything changed. The council meeting on Serathia had been tense. Earth's ambassadors argued numbers, treaties, and boundaries, while Serathian warriors whispered of betrayal. Lyara had stood apart, silent, her silver eyes fixed on him. It was after that meeting, in the quiet of the starlit gardens, that he first felt the weight of her world and his. She had walked beside him through the glowing vines of the Serathian gardens. Their steps were soft on the crystal path, the alien moons reflecting in the pools of water around them. She spoke little, but when she did, her voice was gentle, like the hum of distant stars. Evan had tried to speak of duty, of alliances, but his heart betrayed him, slipping in her presence. Now, with the horizon crumbling, those memories cut deep. He remembered the ambush that had shattered the fragile peace. They had been aboard a Serathian shuttle, heading for neutral ground, when enemy ships appeared out of the void. Blaster fire ripped through the darkness, and alarms screamed. Evan had thrown himself between Lyara and the collapsing bulkhead, dragging her to safety as the shuttle spun out of control. They had escaped in a single pod, tumbling through space until the horizon found them. But the horizon was not safe either. The sabotage had already begun. Systems failed one by one, and someone had left a hidden bomb on board. Evan and Lyara barely stopped it, only to realize too late they had been lured into the nebula's deadly grasp. He opened the locket again, staring at her image. Her smile in the hollow was soft, patient, like she had known all along this moment would come. When I confessed my love to her, Evan whispered to himself. She smiled and said, finally. He swallowed hard, the words tasting bittersweet now. She said it like she had been waiting her whole life. And then everything changed. The horizon shuddered as a shockwave rippled through the nebula. The stars outside flickered and warped as if reality itself was bending. Somewhere out there, Serathian warships and human fleets were hunting, each ready to blame the other for a war neat. Her could win. Evan knew they would come for him, and for her, if she still lived. The recorder blinked, its light dimming with the ship's failing power. He tightened his grip on the locket and looked once more at the swirling nebula. The galaxy was on the edge of collapse, all because of a single moment under alien stars, because a human heart had spoken 3 simple words, and an alien princess had smiled. Outside, the nebula pulsed like a heartbeat, deep and alive. Somewhere within its depths, secrets waited, enemies plotted, and fate twisted tighter around Evan's choices. He took a deep breath, straightened, and whispered into the darkness. This isn't the end. The Forbidden Alliance. The horizon's emergency lights flickered weakly as Evan's message ended, but far away in his memory, another scene unfolded. It was the grand Serathian Hall of Stars, where crystal pillars reached into darkness and 1,000 alien constellations glimmered through a glass dome ceiling. Evan stood among warriors and nobles who watched him with cold, unreadable eyes. He was a single human in a room of ancient power, and the air felt heavy with silent warnings. Princess Lyara entered without sound, her silver gown flowing like moonlight. Every Serathian bowed their heads except her. She did not bow, not even to her own council. Instead, she walked straight toward the human envoy, her gaze steady, her expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, the hall seemed to breathe with them, two worlds caught in a fragile balance. The negotiations had been brutal. Serathian generals accused Earth of dishonor, while Earth's ambassadors painted the Serathians as ruthless conquerors. Only Lyara had spoken with calm restraint, her voice soft but sharp as a blade. She asked questions no one else dared, questions that cut through centuries of anger. Her courage intrigued Evan, though he hid it behind a diplomat's mask. Later that night, in the gardens beneath twin moons, Evan had wandered alone. The alien trees glowed faintly, their leaves shimmering like stardust. He found Lyara there, standing by a pool of mirrored water, her reflection broken by ripples. She did not look at him at first, but when she spoke, her words carried a weight beyond politics. "Do your people ever look at the stars and feel small?" she asked quietly. Evan hesitated, then nodded. "All the time," he said, his voice low. Lyara turned to him, her silver eyes glimmering. "Then we are not so different." The words stayed with him, carving a secret space in his heart. From that night on, they met in hidden corners, sharing small truths behind the backs of those who would never forgive such a bond. Every stolen moment made the fragile alliance more dangerous. If either side discovered their growing closeness, the peace talks would collapse and the war would return fiercer than before. One evening, as they studied a star map together in a quiet observatory, Lyara's hand brushed his. It was an innocent touch, but the energy between them was unmistakable. Evan felt his chest tighten, but he withdrew, knowing what was at stake. Lyara's voice was soft but firm. "You fear what your people will think," she said. "I fear what yours will do," he admitted, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the glass. Her gaze lingered on him, searching, testing, as if she could see past every barrier he had built. Far above them, the nebula that would one day trap them glowed faintly on the horizon of the star chart. It was marked as forbidden space, a place of old legends and vanished fleets. Neither of them could know it would become their prison. But even then, destiny seemed to draw their paths closer. As they returned to the hall, whispers followed them. Spies from rival Serathian houses watched every glance. A human technician intercepted coded transmissions he could not decipher. Somewhere in the shadows, unseen enemies prepared to strike, not against one world, but against two hearts daring to cross a line written in the stars. Lyara paused at the threshold of the hall, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do not let fear decide for you, Evan Cross," she said, her tone carrying both challenge and hope. He met her gaze, unsure whether she was warning him or inviting him into something far greater. In that instant, he knew their bond was no longer a secret he could ignore. The stars outside burned silently, witnesses to a choice that would echo through galaxies. And somewhere deep in the void, a shadow moved, a fleet already en route to tear apart the fragile threads of peace. The first strike was coming, and neither Evan nor Lyara was ready for how it would change everything. Shadows before the storm, the twin suns of Serathia set behind jagged crystal peaks, painting the royal city in molten gold. Evan Cross stood on a balcony high above the alien streets, the distant hum of hovercrafts like a restless heartbeat beneath him. He felt the weight of unseen eyes, every shadow whispering that their secret meetings had not gone unnoticed. Princess Lyara joined him silently, her silver gown catching the last light. She looked calm, but her voice carried a quiet tension. "Someone knows about us," she said, barely moving her lips. Evan's stomach tightened. He had suspected as much after catching a glimpse of a Serathian spy drone outside the observatory 2 nights ago. In the council chamber below, rival houses argued over broken treaties and old blood debts. The atmosphere was growing unstable, like dry tinder waiting for a spark. Lyara brushed a strand of shimmering hair behind her ear and leaned closer. "We must act before they act for us," she whispered, her breath warm against the cool night air. Evan's mind raced. Every diplomat's trick he had ever learned now felt useless against invisible daggers in the dark. He thought of Earth's fleet stationed at the border, one wrong signal away from war. He thought of Liara's smile, the one that made him believe peace was possible. Suddenly, a thunderous vibration shook the balcony. Far above, a bright streak of fire split the evening sky. A Serathian cruiser exploded in orbit, scattering debris like falling stars. Alarms wailed across the city, crimson lights flashing against crystal spires. Evan grabbed Liara's hand as a voice crackled through the palace comms. "Unidentified human warships have entered Serathian space," the message blared. But Evan knew it was a lie. Earth's fleet was still 2 sectors away. This was no human attack. Someone wanted to frame his people and ignite the war. The palace guards rushed past them, their armor glowing with defensive shields. Lyara squeezed Evan's hand for the briefest second before pulling away, her royal composure returning. "We must leave now," she said firmly, "before they decide you are the enemy." He nodded, but inside, fear and resolve battled for control. They slipped through hidden corridors, the sounds of distant explosions echoing through the crystal walls. Evan's communicator buzzed with frantic messages from Earth's diplomats, demands, denials, and panic. He silenced it, knowing none of them could understand what was truly at stake. At a concealed landing bay, a single shuttle waited, its silver hull reflecting the chaos above. Lyara entered a code on the panel, her fingers swift and sure. She glanced at Evan, her expression softening for a heartbeat. "Once we leave this world, there is no going back," she said. Evan stepped closer, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "Then we go forward," he replied. As the shuttle lifted off, the royal city shrank below them, a jewel cracking under pressure. Beyond the horizon, faint lights moved, unknown ships waiting in the void. Liara's silver eyes glimmered with determination and something deeper, something she had not yet spoken aloud. Evan felt the future closing around, and them like the nebula's jaws. Somewhere out there, the real enemy waited, smiling in the dark, and above all, the memory of 3 simple words hung between them. Words that had already started a chain reaction across 2 galaxies. The storm was coming, and neither of them could stop it now. The confession in the fire. The shuttle slipped into the silent dark between stars, its engines barely a whisper. Evan Cross kept his eyes on the scanner, but the display flickered with static. Something was jamming their signals. Lyara stood at the viewport, the silver glow of distant suns dancing across her face. She looked calm, but the tremor in her fingers betrayed the storm inside her. Behind them, Serathia was in chaos. False reports of a human attack flooded every channel, and fleets were already mobilizing. Evan knew Earth's leaders would not stay silent for long. War was only hours away. The thought hollowed him out, yet standing so close to Lyara filled him with a strange, unshakable hope. A sudden flash lit the void, an explosion on the shuttle's tail. The ship lurched violently, alarms blaring. An unknown pursuer had locked onto them, shadowed by the nebula's shifting light. Evan grabbed the controls, but the navigation grid failed completely. Lyara moved beside him, entering override codes in Serathian script, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Someone does not want us alive," she said, her silver eyes flicking to his. Evan's jaw tightened. "Then we make them regret it," he replied. The shuttle dove into a nearby asteroid field, rocks tumbling like ancient giants around them. Metal scraped against stone as Evan threaded the ship through narrow gaps. Each turn risked their lives, but staying still meant certain death. A violent tremor threw Lyara against him, and for a heartbeat they held on to each other, breathing the same ragged breath. Another impact shook the shuttle, knocking out the stabilizers. Sparks showered the cabin, and for a moment the world shrank to the sound of their pounding hearts. Evan realized it. Then, in that fragile breath between survival and doom, that silence was more dangerous than truth. He turned to her, his voice raw but steady. "Lyara, "I love you," he said. For a fraction of a second, the universe itself seemed to hold still. The asteroids drifted like frozen echoes, and even the alarms felt distant. Lyara's lips curved into a soft, radiant smile, her silver eyes bright with relief and wonder. "Finally," she whispered, her voice carrying centuries of longing and destiny. But the word did not bring peace. It awakened something hidden. The shuttle's dashboard lit with alien symbols, a deep hum reverberating through the hull. Lyara's expression shifted from joy to shock. "The prophecy," she breathed. "It has been triggered." Outside, a pulse of energy rippled outward, sweeping through the asteroid field like a silent storm. Far-off ships detected the surge and changed course, warlords and spies alike now converging on their location. In confessing his love, Evan had not only changed her life, he had announced to 2 galaxies that destiny's key had turned. The shuttle spun free of the asteroid field, its engines barely holding together. Evan glanced at Lyara, questions burning in his eyes. She reached for his hand, her grip firm and sure despite the danger. "There is no turning back now," she said softly. Outside, the nebula loomed larger, its crimson clouds swirling like a living thing. Somewhere inside, answers waited. Answers that could unite worlds or destroy them. The Empire strikes back. The shuttle's warning lights flickered weakly as it drifted on the edge of the crimson nebula. Outside, distant stars blurred behind the swirling clouds, making the universe feel smaller and more dangerous. Evan Cross tightened his grip on the controls, scanning for pursuers, but Lyara's face had gone pale. She could feel something deeper, something her people had feared for generations. A sudden transmission broke through the static, a voice cold and commanding. "This is the Serathian High Council," it declared. "By royal decree, Princess Lyara is to be detained for treason, and the human called Evan Cross is to be executed on sight." Evan's chest tightened. The words felt unreal. Lyara closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, her silver gaze burning with quiet fury. "They have chosen war over truth," she said, her voice low but steady. Behind them, 3 Serathian warships emerged from the nebula's mist, their hulls gleaming like blades of glass. They closed in quickly, forming a deadly triangle around the shuttle. Evan's fingers hovered over the engine controls, but the small craft was no match for their power. Lyara stepped forward, placing her hand on his shoulder. "We cannot outrun them," she said, "but we can outthink them." She entered a code into the navigation system, a forgotten Serathian protocol known only to the royal line. The stars on the display shifted, revealing a hidden path through the nebula's heart. "It is dangerous," Lyara admitted. "Few who enter ever return." Evan managed a faint smile despite the fear tightening his chest. "Sounds like our best option," he said. The shuttle darted into the crimson clouds, the warships following close behind. Electric storms danced through the nebula, streaks of violet light cracking across their hull. Each surge of energy scrambled sensors, turning the chase into a deadly game of blind pursuit. As they weaved between collapsing energy fields, a sudden voice filled the cabin, distorted, alien, and unfamiliar. It was not Serathian or human. "Key awakened," it said, echoing like a whisper through metal walls. "The balance will break." Evan and Lyara exchanged a glance, their fear momentarily replaced by awe. Whatever ancient power her people had hidden, his confession had woken it. A violent tremor ripped through the shuttle, and a panel burst into spar. Lyara grabbed Evan's arm to steady herself. "We have to reach the core passage," she said urgently. "It's the only safe route through." Evan nodded, guiding the shuttle deeper into the storm. Behind them, one Serathian warship was torn apart by a sudden energy surge, its wreckage swallowed by the nebula. The remaining 2 pressed on, relentless and merciless. For a moment, the storm cleared just enough to reveal a breathtaking sight. A vast, glowing structure hidden within the nebula, like a cathedral carved from starlight. Strange runes shimmered across its surface, pulsing in time with the energy hum that now filled their cabin. Lyara's voice trembled, not with fear but reverence. "That is the heart of eternity," she whispered. "A relic older than our empire." The warships fired, energy blasts streaking past the shuttle. Evan pushed the engines to their limit, slipping through a narrow gap between two collapsing energy fields. Every instinct told him they were racing not just for survival, but for the fate of two galaxies. Lyara reached out, her hand finding his, and for a heartbeat, the chaos outside felt distant. "We will not let them decide our future," she said, her voice steady even as the universe seemed to unravel around them. Behind them, the nebula roared like a living storm. Ahead, the heart of eternity waited, its secrets older and more dangerous than either of them could imagine. And somewhere far beyond, two civilizations sharpened their blades, ready to strike, flight and revelation. The heart of eternity loomed ahead like a sleeping god, its radiant surface carved with shifting symbols that no living scholar could read. Evan Cross guided the shuttle closer, the craft rattling under the pull of unseen forces. Behind them, the two Serathian warships still pursued, their weapons flashing bright arcs of death through the crimson cloud. Lyara stepped beside Evan, her silver eyes wide with awe and fear. "This place was a legend even to my ancestors," she whispered. "No one has set foot here for 10,000 years." The shuttle's sensors flickered wildly, unable to measure the structure's power. A low hum filled the cabin, growing louder until it vibrated through their bones. Suddenly, the warships halted their chase. They hovered just beyond the heart's edge, unwilling to follow further. Evan frowned, his grip tightening on the controls. "Why stop now?" he muttered. Liara's voice trembled slightly. "They fear the heart," she said. "Even our most powerful warriors believe it can rewrite destiny." The shuttle crossed a threshold of light, and the nebula's noise faded to silence. Stars vanished, replaced by a swirling void of luminous energy. Strange constellations flickered and disappeared as if reality itself was unstable here. An unseen voice spoke again, deeper and clearer this time. "Two hearts united, two worlds divided. The key has turned," it echoed. Evan's skin prickled, and Lyara clasped his hand tightly. "This was the prophecy," she said softly, "the moment our bond would awaken what was hidden." Panels on the shuttle flickered, revealing star maps older than either species. Lines of light stretched across the void, connecting worlds like a great web. Evan stared at the map, realization dawning. This isn't a weapon," he said quietly. "It's a guide." Lyara nodded slowly. "But a guide to what?" Before either could answer, the void trembled. A surge of energy spiraled outward, forming a vast doorway of light. Through it, Evan glimpsed impossible scenes, worlds untouched by war, fleets burning, and a future where Serathians and humans stood side by side. But among those visions was another, a dark figure shrouded in shadow, watching them from a distant star. The warships outside fired a warning volley, the blasts dissipating harmlessly against the heart's protective field. Whoever commanded those ships had realized too late that stepping back had cost them the advantage. Lyara turned to Evan, her face pale but resolute. "We cannot go back," she said, her voice steady. Evan met her gaze, the weight of two civilizations pressing on his shoulders. "Then we go forward," he replied, echoing the words he had spoken before. They steered the shuttle into the doorway of light, leaving the warships and the nebula behind. As they crossed the threshold, the energy wrapped around them like warm fire. The ship's alarms ceased, and for a heartbeat, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Evan felt the locket in his pocket grow warm, Liara's image within glowing brighter than ever before. Somewhere far beyond, forces older than empires stirred awake, and in that fragile moment, both of them understood. Their confession of love had not just changed their own lives, it had changed the fate of the entire galaxy, the beginning of the end. The shuttle burst out of the doorway of light and into a sky unlike any Evan Cross had ever seen. Vast continents of floating crystal drifted among rivers of glowing mist, and a single colossal star hung low, its surface swirling with colors unknown to Earth or Serathia. The air itself seemed alive, pulsing with quiet energy. For a moment, Evan and Lyara simply stared, their breath stolen by the beauty and the weight of what lay before them. A soft chime echoed through the cabin. The ship's console lit up with symbols neither of them recognized. Lines of light spread outward like a spider's web, connecting distant stars in a pattern that pulsed like a heartbeat. The voice returned, clearer, almost human now. "The balance is broken," it said. "The Keeper will awaken." Liara's silver eyes widened. "The Keeper is not a myth," she whispered, her voice almost trembling. "Oh!" Her stories spoke of a guardian older than the Serathian throne, a power that chooses who may shape the future. Suddenly, the shuttle shuddered violently. A shockwave rippled across the glowing mists, and in the distance, a vast silhouette rose from the clouds. It was not a ship. It was something larger, alive, its body formed of living starlight and stone. Its eyes, twin galaxies swirling, opened slowly, fixing on the small shuttle like a predator on fragile prey. Alarms blared again. Though no damage had been done, Evan gripped the controls, but his hands shook. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. Lyara's gaze stayed locked on the creature. "The Keeper," she said. "It has judged many and spared few." The creature's voice resonated without sound, vibrating through their bones. "You have awoken what was meant to sleep," it said. "You have spoken forbidden words of unity." The stars around them seemed to flicker and dim, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Evan swallowed hard, forcing himself to speak. "We didn't come to break the galaxy," he said. "We came to save it." Lyara stepped forward, her hand brushing his shoulder for courage. "We are not enemies," she said, her voice strong. "We are proof that two worlds can be one." For a heartbeat, the Keeper said nothing. Then the sky itself seemed to tear open. Visions of war and peace flashed around them in a storm of light. Human fleets burning, Serathian cities falling, but also a glimpse of a future where both stood together under shared stars. The Keeper's enormous eyes narrowed, galaxies spinning faster within them. "Prove it!" the voice thundered. The glowing crystal continent beneath them began to fracture, pieces tumbling into the void below. The shuttle's controls went dead, leaving them drifting helplessly above the abyss. Lyara looked at Evan, and for the first time, he saw fear in her silver eyes. But behind the fear was something stronger, faith. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. "No matter what comes," she said quietly, "we face it together." Evan met her gaze, the weight of two civilizations pressing down. He nodded once, steady, and as the crystal world shattered and the Keeper's gaze bore into their souls, the future of two galaxies balanced on the fragile thread of their love. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.